Welcome to the Dawn Jarvis Show with Dawn Jarvis, the diverse nurse. And in this podcast, we will be talking about healthcare, self-care, diversity, careers, and well-being from a Black woman's perspective. We're really happy that you're here. So if you're ready, let's get on with the show.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Dawn Jarvis Show. Today, my guest is Heath Stone, and we're going to learn how to live an uncommon life as a diabetic.
Hey, Dawn, how are you?
How are you, Heath? It's good to see you.
Well, it's great to be here. It's such a great opportunity for us to connect again and to I just love what you're doing. So appreciate the opportunity to be here with you.
Well, it's really good to see you, and I'm really looking forward to our chat. I'm going to introduce you properly now. Heath Stone is the founder and CEO of Uncommon Diabetic Solutions Incorporated. He has been living with type 1 diabetes for almost 30 years and is living an uncommon diabetic life in Langley BC, Canada. What does BC stand for? Is that British Columbia?
That's British Columbia.
That's right. So Heath is a serial entrepreneur that is now focused on empowering people living with and impacted by diabetes so they can experience uncommon energy, health, and performance. He believes that together we can transform life from common to uncommon. Hi, Heath, again. It's really good to see you. And I know that you've got a really amazing story, so I'd love you to share it again with me and with the listeners and the audience of how you got to be who you are and where you are today.
Well, Dawn, I really appreciate the opportunity to be here to share my story and for us to just talk a little bit about life and how we have the opportunity every day to transform, right, from common to uncommon in every moment we live. So you asked me my story. Well, my story into diabetes was quite a dramatic one because I was a very fit young man. I was actually in my mid-20s. I was a Vancouver police officer at the time and was involved in a lot of physical training. I was mountain bike riding on the mountain bike squad for the police. I was training and helping the officers in their physical training. There's many things that I was doing. So I was about 190 pounds. I was about 8% body fat. I was in good shape, or so I thought.
8% body fat? You had 8% body fat, so you would have had proper abs at that point.
Yeah, at 25, I did have proper abs. That's right. It's a whole lifetime ago. No, it's not at all. You know, what I think is that where we're at, my grandfather actually said this to me, is that you're always 20 something.
Yeah.
But the real truth is the body just slowly stops cooperating.
Absolutely.
Right? What goes on in your mind and our personal identity and who we think we are, that really gets snapshotted of who we each see our individual identity as somewhere in our 20s. Mm-hmm. So mine was right around that time when I became a diabetic. I was really getting into my own, right? I was confident. I'd been on the job for 5 years. I got on the police department really young. I was very fortunate. And, you know, life as I knew it was going great. Or the typical mid-20-year-old, I'm indestructible.
I can see that.
Right?
I can see how that was.
You know, and I can see that in my son. So, anyway, so I ended up having an autoimmune response to some medical procedures that I had done. And it basically triggered my immune system, and it ended up attacking the islet cells in my pancreas. After it was done its original job, there's a few too many of those little white T cells running around, and they decided that they would focus on my pancreas. And I ended up in a month, I lost 40 pounds. I went blind. I ended up with an A1c of 47 and ended up in a diabetic coma.
What is A1c, just for people who don't know?
Yeah, so A1c is our hemoglobin A1c. It's an average of our blood sugar over about 3 months. Okay, and cool. We let's call it healthy human beings, depending on who you are, would be in the mid 3s to the under 8, 7 something in that area. So all of us, our blood sugar goes up, it goes down as we eat, as we fuel our body. And then our pancreas kicks in, and as the sugar, the glucose, hits our bloodstream, insulin is the hormone in our body that actually opens up the cell doors, the key, and it allows that glucose to go into our cells. And my body shut those production cells, the islet cells, down, and I was no longer producing insulin. And I lost, like I said, I ended up in hospital in a coma. And that for me, going from being what I thought was indestructible to waking up and being told that you're now a type 1 diabetic. You have a different life. Life as you know it is over.
That must have been so devastating for you. Now, for people who don't know, Heath and I have something in common in that my son Noah is also a type 1 diabetic, that it was discovered in his 20s. So I know from Noah's experience, and actually Heath has been very supportive to my son Noah around them because they have a very similar story. So I know from him how devastating that was and how it affected. But how was it for you, Heath? You know, sort of like you were in your prime, you were playing sport, you were doing the job you loved, and then you had this, what would have been to you a devastating diagnosis that came from nowhere. You weren't expecting it. You know, how did you manage when that happened to you?
Well, if I'm going to be truly honest, I was really angry. Yeah. I was really pissed, quite frankly. And as you and I know, I am who I am. I kind of wear things on my sleeve, right? And so I was angry and I denied it. I was in denial. I said, what are you talking about? I can do anything. And I still have that view, is that I can do anything. The truth of diabetes is it doesn't really care what you think. And it's going to have an impact on your mindset. It has an impact on our physical health, our strength, our performance. It's directly impacted to the food and the nutrition, I call it fuel, that we put into our body, and ultimately rest and recovery. So it's really a lifestyle condition. And I'm not saying that because our lifestyle can cause prediabetes, type 2 diabetes. And ultimately, I'd have to say it even caused or contributed to the trigger in my body that got pulled that triggered the autoimmune. So I was going without sleep as a police officer. I wasn't sleeping properly. 3 to 5 hours a night is not healthy, right? I was really fit and working out, but lack of sleep, inappropriate eating. I mean that I still was healthy eating, but I was still eating out and doing different things that I was missing meals. There was no consistency in the body. So I was really in stress all the time. So that really was a challenge for me to realize that I had to become more disciplined. And I thought I was.
So what did you do?
Well, I actually did probably one of the most wise things that I could do. And I just began a journey of learning and finding people that I could be in proximity to that had experience and wisdom, not knowledge, because I tell you, there are so many people in the world that have lots of knowledge. But if you can't apply the knowledge, it's not wisdom. It's not experience. And it's only people that have walked the path that truly, in my opinion, have the ability to truly coach you or mentor you, train you to be successful, because they have already done what they're telling you. Someone who has knowledge not necessarily has any experience.
That's so true. It's that true. And I have experience of that for myself and with other people, that you can't live people's life for them. They sort of have to experience it and gain that wisdom themselves. I think you would agree. So originally you told me you were angry, and then was there a tipping point where you sort of like moved into the journey where you sort of like, I can't live like this anymore, I've got to do something different and sort of get to know more about my disease and how I'm going to live the rest of my life?
Well, I think a common lesson that most of the people that are challenging diabetes or living with or impacted by diabetes, and that can be diabetics or the support people around them, as you and I have talked about a lot, right? And you as a nurse and as a mother understand this very clearly. But I tried to become perfect. to the point where my doctors, because I'm very disciplined, policeman, military, these types of structures, so I can work and create these routines that are really great. But bluntly, they told me I had to lighten up because I was running such a fine line trying to be normal, right? That the stress it was putting on me mentally, emotionally, and physically, I had to come to a place of acceptance that my blood sugar numbers were just numbers. Life happens. There's ups, there's downs. And to allow myself to learn the skills on how to react to it versus trying so tightly to control. And that really made me realize I really needed to dig deep. And it's the journey I went on where I learned these 4 pillars, right, that build the foundations of an uncommon life. And it applies to not just diabetes, it's really life.
Yeah. So you were a police officer when you started doing this, when you became a diabetic. Now I know that that as part of your journey, you turned into something else totally. So what careers did you do? How did you get to the business owner that you are now?
Well, Don, that's a really good question. So where I worked, I was very fortunate. I had gone overseas. I took a leave of absence. I speak Chinese. I developed some very unique skills in the department, and those skills became very transferable. The ability to communicate with people in their own language, to be able to understand what people are experiencing in life. By being there, having gone to China, lived in China, having done some things, it helped my career as a police officer, but it became a key to where I went in my business because I realized that the routines, and I was treated really well. I mean, I didn't leave because of my diabetes. I could have stayed. I was supported by the job. However, I realized that I needed to create routines that would allow me to thrive. When we talk about this a lot, with Beirut and the entrepreneur's doctor, about how do we thrive, right?
Yeah.
If we want to predict our future, we have to create it, right? That Abe Lincoln said that. So I realized I had to change my life, everything from the hours I worked to the focus of what I was focused on, and to get around people that I could really help and empower. That's my main mission of life. So I want to empower people. And so I went into business and focused on the Asian marketplace and transitioned into promotions and advertising and basically sales and business development. And yeah, so this is my 11th business now that I've started since I left the police department. I've been unemployable ever since. So
yeah, that's the thing around being a business owner, isn't it? That you because I'm a nurse, you're a police officer, and so I suppose I could go and get a job, but I feel that I am now unemployable. So that because of the freedom that having a business gives you. But you're right, the insights you've got now that you got from your police officer work and that I've got from my healthcare work, they are totally transferable. I did not know that you could speak Chinese, Heath. I did not know about that. I've known you for a little while now, so that's a wonder. So that is an amazing skill, and also to have lived there and to sort of like to be able to start businesses out there, and and to be a serial entrepreneur, actually, to sort of actually see different businesses and see opportunities. And I think, I don't know this for a fact actually, but I'm assuming, knowing you, that you see opportunities and that you can see what can be done, and they're about helping people, and what that it's the market, I guess, and that you're helping people, and one of those markets, and that's a little bit around my work as well. So as a nurse, there's healthcare's a market. We have the National Health Service in the United Kingdom, which is paid by taxation, but it all costs stuff. Do you know what I mean? There's a definite market there, and sort of like philosophically, people do have a problem with that, because it's sort of like designed to be free, but nothing's free, is it really? So there's always a bit of a market there. And there are businesses and service providers that can actually provide those services. And you've done something quite unique that's related to your life experience, and you've been able to translate that to your business experience. And I think a lot of people that are reading, are listening to this, not reading, listening to this or watching this will be, so one of the things I like to think is, what skills do you have that are transferable? And we've talked about that. How can you apply that? How can you apply your life experience to what you know and that you're an expert in? And you've done that really brilliantly. So tell us about Uncommon Diabetic Solutions Incorporated. So about how does that work? And I know we're going to talk about the 4 pillars that underpin it.
It's funny, but everything we do, and just to sort of as a backtrack, and it fits in the story as well, everything we do is taking us forward. Where we stand today is a result of all the choices that we made along the way and those steps. And I have a real belief, as you do, that everything's happening for me. It's not happening to me. This mindset, this attitude of opportunity that you just said is critical. And that's why it's funny, but all the business I've owned, from a promotional ad agency to event company to real estate development to contracting to consulting, and on, I can continue on with it. But the point is, it's led me through a place to continually shift my life, the routines, to continue to create the lifestyle that I want, because ultimately that's really what it's about, right? And it's how do we help people along the way? Because not all of us understand, I don't know why, but if we give, we will end up getting back more than we need.
Definitely.
And that's been an underlying in my mission statement of my life, is how do I empower people to experience something better at every moment that I'm in? Now, do I accomplish that every moment? No, unfortunately I don't, because I'm a human being and I make mistakes. So Uncommon Diabetic Solutions came out of my pain. That's the real truth, is that my pain of not being able to, what I would call, master my diabetes. So I literally began to travel around the world and get around people that were health experts in all of these 4 areas. And this was the consistent thing that I noticed, is that all people, whether they're with diabetic, living with any form of chronic disease, or are fully healthy and moving, they are working on trying to put a balance together between what I call pillar 1, their mindset and their intentions, their vision of life. And I call that uncommon sense, when you actually know what you need to do and then you take action on it. That second pillar is how we fuel our body. What do we do to turn ourselves into our best version of ourselves? Our cars are really these billion or trillion dollar amazing electrobiomechanical vehicles for us, who we are, our spirit, our essence of who we are, to drive around in. Well, you don't go put a diesel fuel in an R8 Audi Ironman car, right? You're going to put the highest octane gas, the best fuel you can into it. And that's sort of a big philosophy. And I noticed that all successful people who are balanced in their life and are having that most optimal, uncommon, that rare, exceptional experience, it's fueling it properly. Then performance is affected, because these are all intertwined. They all interconnect like cogs in a machine. Is that performance? Are you moving our body? The body heals, it works. My stiffness, my pain goes away when I walk, when I move. We've all experienced it. Sitting in a chair, we're in meetings all day, and we just feel sluggish. We get up, go for a 10-minute walk, boom, state change, right? Yeah. And then the last is recovery. And that's another thing that I missed completely, especially in our world today, the hustle mantra that's out there. Well, you can freaking hustle and take care of yourself, because if you're not getting 7 hours of sleep, you're going negative in the bank of your recovery opportunity, because our body only heals. We can only lose weight. We can only repair and recover our thinking, our physical stuff in rest and recovery. So those are the 4 pillars. And what I learned through traveling literally all over the world, and learning from leading experts in this is that when you put them into the proper routines, the results are uncommon.
That's amazing. And I know that you work both with communities of people with diabetes and individually with people with diabetes. And I know that, and around people in the workplace and how they can sort of like manage their work. And which is something I find really interesting, because there are lots of people with diabetes. There are also lots of people with what we call in the UK long-term conditions that they're living with, and that's part of their life. There was something you said earlier about it becomes a way of life, and it's something you have to, that works with your life, not against your life, and how you manage that. And it must be good, because I know I feel good about my business, that it's something that you've become an expert in, it's something that you've lived a life doing, and that you're able to help people with the expertise that you've generated over the years with it. And because I think it helps, you've lived that life, you know what people are going through, you know how it impacts on your work, you know how it impacts on your rest time, as you were saying, how it impacts on family life, and and what it means to live that life. And I think what you're saying is that you don't have to be an ordinary person, and like you can be an extraordinary person, and as you term it, uncommon. Would you agree, Heath?
100%. And that actually is all of us, because I sure as heck am not. What I strive to be is an uncommon diabetic. And I'm actually proud of being a diabetic now, because, learning these skills is something that we do one step at a time. I've been living with diabetes now for almost 30 years. It's only been the last 2 to 3 years where I've been actually going through the journey of documenting it and putting it into a teachable format so that I can really deliver it to people, because I started to realize the diabetics are not being mentored. They're not being trained. They're educated, where the doctors are telling, and everybody, and it's good education. But if they haven't walked a mile in the shoes, I want to teach people that they can be accountable and be their best advocate, and actually communicate with other diabetics, communicate with family and friends, communicate with their healthcare professionals. And together, we can transform to that uncommon life. Because I don't know what I don't know, right, Dawn? Like and that the beginning of all change comes from awareness and an acceptance of what is. From there, we begin the journey. And that's, I think of Noah and I and our friendship, and just being able to talk and go, I know your pain. I've walked there. I can tell you from my experience, when I did this and this, these were the results that happened. And I couldn't break it. No matter how much I thought I could, I'm strong enough, I'm this. But when you come to realization that, hold it, I want this result. This is the reason I want it. Now, what are the actions, those routines I need to do to get it? That's where Noah and I, as friends, were able just to talk about it and go, oh, it's actually not that hard. I can do that. What's your thoughts on that?
I think that there's a lot of value in lived experience. There's a lot of value in, as you said earlier, aligning yourself with people that have experienced it. So what you and Noah having in common are that you are athletes, and you and that was a massive part of your life. And so the impact of diabetes, you had the same impact, and you got diabetes or diagnosed with diabetes around the same age. And I know from my work as a nurse, and I know from Noah actually, that the biggest issue was, and you've mentioned it too, was I can do anything, and I can beat anything through sheer force of personality. and sort of diabetes isn't like that. But as a young person, you do believe you're invincible. You know, that's what the research shows, that then you believe you're never going to die, you're never going to get old, that's not going to happen. And so that, you know, and I remember Noah saying to me, I don't want to be a diabetic. And like he could change it. And so, and I think in talking to someone like you, and this applies to anybody with any health issue, that if you are able to see how other people have managed it and successfully managed it, and or maybe in a different season of their life or their journey with their condition, that's very powerful, because role modeling is key for most things. You know, I learned how to be a good nurse by watching other nurses. You get taught the education, but the doing is everything, isn't it? It's like I said to my niece today about learning to drive, because when you learn to drive, they teach you how to pass the test. They don't teach you how to drive. You learn to drive afterwards by doing it on your own.
Brilliant. Those are brilliant words. I think life is really about learning, right? Obviously, there's a lot more in that philosophical statement, but a painting on the right behind me, it's a Helen Keller statement.
Yes.
And there's days when I go and I want to do the poor me, and I want to go and say, this is not fair. Why do I have to deal with this? Why am I overly emotional right now? Or why am I just weak? I'm not able. I physically have to accept the fact my body, I ran it down, my choice. I didn't listen, didn't do a proper blood test, whatever it was. And now I'm in a position where I have no options. I have to adjust, or else it means a visit to the hospital, or worse, right? Yeah. It's our choice. That daring adventure that we choose is all based around our willingness to learn and grow. And that means we need people, because I don't know what I don't know. I'm just oblivious. And that opportunity to go into what I call conscious incompetence is the beginning of growth. That's when the penny drops and you go, I suck. But guess what? I can move to being consciously competent. And that's where life is lived, this learning journey, right? And getting around anybody who already has what you want is the key to success. You know, in school, they used to teach us, don't copy, don't plagiarize, you can't steal someone else's idea. That's a lie. The real truth is, I want to go to the best, fastest, smartest, strongest, whatever person, and I want to learn what they're doing so I can become really competent. And then all of a sudden, through it, Tony Robbins taught me was repetition is the mother of all skill.
It is. That is so true.
Consistently repeating a habit, it becomes a routine, and eventually it's actually a ritual, right? One day you wake up and you use the car driving analogy, and your identity's formed. You're now this new person because of that repetition. You went from, I can barely drive, as you said, and keeping it between the lines was the thing, to, before the law was changed, you're driving with your knee, you're shifting the standard, you got the cell phone in your ear, and you're completely unconscious of all the things that you're doing because it's become automated in your identity. And I think that's really, Dawn, you know, in all of our conversations and your expertise as a nurse, it's being willing to work consistently, because you can't break the old habit. You have to replace it.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things you do with your programs and the way you work with people in the communities that you have, it's around, for me, it's around compliance. And, you know, I'm not diabetic. I live with a diabetic. But what I've noticed, and, you know, what nurses and medical people want to do is they want to help people to comply, which is very paternalistic, actually. But the reason around that is because if you comply, that you'll have the best chance of success. But it's there's more to it than that. It's around your health beliefs, it's what you believe to be true about yourself, it's what perceived benefit that you're going to get from it, whatever treatment program. And it's also about self-determination, the control that you have over it. They call it locus of control. So it's around getting someone into the state that they feel that they're in control of their own health, and that they're making the decisions, and, you know, with the best information possible to do that. And in the NHS, and I can't speak for other healthcare systems, you have limited time to do that, and you're not going to do that with a nurse. You know, they will help you in the time they can, but it's going to be with yourself and your friends and your family that you're going to do that. So I really like the work that you're doing around creating that community, creating that resource, creating that, you know, sort of that, I guess, that friends and family, isn't it? That support system around people, so that they can live the healthiest lives that they can do, which is what any healthcare professional wants for any of their patients or clients. Service users, I prefer to use that rather than patients, because that's quite paternalistic as well, isn't it? So, Heath, and it's sort of like the self-determination to do that.
Yeah, you know, when we talk about the determination and things that you're speaking to, I think it's really important for all of us, diabetics, anybody living with any form of chronic disease. And here's the real truth: life is chronic disease.
Yeah, man.
Right? We're gonna eventually. You're fighting the whole time. It has this period, right? But it's hard. And what people don't realize is that all of the best triumphs are on the other side of fear. It's on that embracing uncertainty. It's always there, trying something new. But you said something that's so critical: community. The slogan you hear me say all the time: together we can. And I learn every day from people on how to improve. So I'll share a personal story for me as a diabetic. I have just now I'm on just finishing my first month, and I've gone to complete constant glucose monitoring on the Medtronic 770 pump with a on the back of my arm here. You can see I have a sensor in there, and it's communicating real time with my pump. And I got this wicked app that tells me real time. I get alerts, all kinds of stuff. So that information lets me make better choices quicker. So it's more like the real pancreas. It's just adjusting all the time. Well, for me being an old guy that wanted to control everything, to actually give technology some trust, right? Because to overdose yourself with insulin is not a very good thing to do. No. So it took a lot of time for me, way longer than it should have, but it was being in community. So I help support an organization called ICD, I Challenge Diabetes. It's an adventure organization. And I tell you, they help transform people's lives, and we're really aligned. And that's Chris Jarvis. He used to be an Olympian with Team Canada on the rowing team, but he got me in the circle of these young adults. And I was talking with these young kids on ideas around how to loop technology, how Dexcom works, how Medtronic, and all these different ways of doing something that I just went over my head. And I was going, okay, how? I was asking questions. I was being a sponge. I was learning from these young adults on what they'd done, how they could do it. And guess what? I was giving to them too, going, here's how you could set that up into a routine. Here's how we could do this. And it changed my life, because now I'm on it. My blood sugars are in range between 85 to 90% of the time. Before, I would be like, I did a great job, but I was always reacting to something. The technology has allowed me to be proactive towards something, which is always the best way. So that's just me in a personal life story, sharing how community and challenge is about being around people that have enough similarity, but also diversity.
Yeah.
Because that diversity is growth.
Well, the diversity in thought, isn't it? So, for those who don't know, I'm a diverse nurse and I talk about diversity, inclusion, and equity. And one of the things for businesses and for a bit large or small businesses, and Heath has perfectly demonstrated that if you have diversity of thought, it's only beneficial because you just introduce new things, but new ideas. And one of the things that when I was a nurse, the way diabetes it was managed was totally different. The terms are different, everything's different. What I've learned since my son was diagnosed as diabetic, there's all these different things and how they interact and support you to manage your condition. And and it's a fantastic story that you just told there, Heath, about how you were persuaded by people younger than you that were utilizing that technology in a fantastic way, and that you could see the benefits for yourself, and they were able to utilize them. So that's really, really good. Really good.
That's why I truly believe in Together We Can, right? It's not about Heath. I am an uncommon diabetic and I can go through, explain all of that stuff I do in my courses and in our community, both on the free stuff as well as the paid. But the real truth is this: I don't know what I don't know. I'm open to learning. And I'm learning from male, female. I'm learning from young, from 12-year-old, all the way up to, me. I haven't met many older diabetics yet. Obviously there are. I don't mean it that way, but in that capacity. But I'm a grandpa now, and the ability to continue to grow and learn is the spice of life.
Absolutely.
And that's what Helen Keller taught me, is that today is an adventure. What you gonna do with it, right? So how do we respond? And that's what I love about you, Dawn, and our friendship, and the things I'm learning is that diversity is critical for us to be able to work together, to realize that if it's worthwhile, the pain we overcome is what gives us our gain. They're two sides to the coin. So when I go to the gym and it hurts, because it does, right? I'm uncomfortable. I get sweaty. I'm ripping muscles. That's why it hurts, right?
Yeah.
But the real truth is that I've learned over the years to give myself enough rest, to do certain things in a certain way, how to group certain muscles. But the fact is I give myself rest. 2 days later, I actually feel worse than I did the day after, but that's my sign it's time to go back.
Definitely.
Because the exercise actually takes away the pain, and then it begins to move, and I build resilience, and it moves forward step by step. And that's just one example. But what I know is that we work with people from all walks of life, all ages, and it's really about being around people to learn and then start taking steps forward. And we work on a long term. UD is not about in 30 days you're going to lose 30 pounds and you're going to turn into, this was a lot of years, right? As a diabetic, things don't happen fast, right?
No, they don't. No, don't.
But I've done it. I had to lose that 25 to 30 pounds because I wasn't obese when I became a diabetic. But you talked about it. My mindset shifted. I was angry. Why bother? All those things. I had to get to a place where I was open, and that caused me, unfortunately, to do what I used to do. But now my body's not functioning the same, so I ended up putting on weight. Great. Now I got to figure out how to get rid of the weight.
Yeah.
And then how do you maintain it? Well, that's a journey that we do together, and it's a year. If you really want to look at something, and anyone who's telling you that you can do a diet, I call diets die with a T at the end of it. But the fact is, it's a lifestyle. That's what I'm saying. I don't care if it's a Mediterranean diet, a keto diet, a vegetarian, they all can work. You have to learn your body, what works for you and your beliefs, because that's a huge part of what drives everything we do in our life. But then just begin to move forward together and walk it out. And do it in a healthy, sustainable, and safe way. Because if you do a diet and you lose hypothetically 30 pounds, there's this thing, I don't know why, it's called yo-yoing. because people do it for 30 days. They get great results. And they think that now they can stop doing what they did to get the results. And they wonder, why did they gain back 40 pounds? And it really comes down to the routines. Those people, it was the routines that drove the result of losing weight. And we're just using weight. There's many, many topics here, obviously. And to gain the weight, if they're honest, they would look at it. They just replaced the routine for losing weight to a routine that told the body, oh, I have to gain weight.
Yeah, definitely.
So does that make sense? I guess
absolutely, it absolutely makes sense, and I think that's going to resonate with a lot of people, and it's around a mindset, routines, and I really like what you said. There's a routine for gaining weight as well as losing weight. I know it, and we fall into that routine. I know through the lockdown that we had here, I didn't do any exercise. I put on, I can't even say the number out loud, and how much weight I put on. And so there's a process, and I like the way that you think it's a year's process. I'm not going to lose it next week, not ever, particularly as I'm like 2 years older now. And so it's a process, but I think everyone has to give themselves grace and to realize how they got to whatever state they got to. And so, and we're designed, the results that we have it's because of the things we did. So then we have to undo those things or think about those things in a different way to get to where we want to be.
That's right. And what you just said, so powerful, because we have been given so many individual, unique gifts, talents, the things that we each individually have. Those things, gifts and talents, they just come naturally. Some people can just pick up a pen and draw. I'm so envious. I have a stepson that is gifted at that, like that. And it just, I'm a stick man, right?
Yeah.
And he's now, but I'm learning and appreciating those things. The point is that a gift not put with work and discipline is wasted.
Mm-hmm.
Think of Michael Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
Think of Magic Johnson. Think of anybody who's achieved greatness in anything, right? They've done it through their routines. But what I can also say, that if you sit down with Michael and you watch any of his movies or his documentaries, you and I can go do those routines. The routines is what makes you a world-class athlete in this case of these men, right? So they got up early, they went to bed early, they ate right, they did these things consistently. And what happened? They maximized their gifts and talents to be the best version of them. And if that is coming from an elite athlete's view, or being a grandpa that's overweight and I literally just want to get a decade of my life back.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if it took 50 years to get to where you are, it's going to take a couple years, I would say, to get back to where you would ideally like to be. And I mean, I could squirrel on a whole bunch of things, but these things are not that challenging. I think it just comes down to us realizing, back to community, how do I learn and just repeat those habits? And that's getting, I basically call it this, I'll stand up. Should, could, would, did.
Fantastic.
We all should all over ourselves. Well, I should go to the gym, or I should cut back on the liter of ice cream I'm eating every day, or I should drink more water. I should go to bed and not binge Netflix till 2 a.m. or whatever it is, or I would do it, but there's an excuse. That's us falling below the line. And really what you and I talk about is, how do we step above the line, be accountable, set a goal, surround ourselves in community, and journey with people. Give ourselves grace and realize it's going to come. But if I shift how I think and believe, my potential will increase. I'll take action. That action will deliver a result, which will build confidence, which then increases our potential. So that's kind of, I guess, a little bit of me and what I believe and how I've done what I've done to at 52, be able to run a half marathon, to do a week hike in the Rocky Mountains as a diabetic, to, I love it at the gym. I get these 20-year-olds coming up and saying, hey, can we do a pull-up competition? Can we, and this type, but that's the challenge, right? That keeps us moving forward.
Definitely. Well, Heath, you've told us everything. You've given the life according to Heath Stone. I love it. How can people get in contact with you, learn about Uncommon Diabetic, the stuff that you do? Where can people get hold of you? And I think you've got something that you'd like to offer the audience as well.
Yeah, thanks, Don. I'm really grateful for, every time you and I talk, I learn so much. Uncommon Diabetic Solutions. You can find me at uncommondiabetic.com. We are really focused on trying to help you build the foundations of your uncommon. That's that rare, exceptional, extraordinary, not common life on the pillars of health: our mindset, our nutrition, our exercise, and our rest. How do we do that together to build these foundations? So what I have to offer you is come check us out. Thursday, 4 p.m., a free Transform workshop, and join our community. And that's totally free. And then if it fits for you, then we can talk, and I'll meet with you personally. We can talk about our UD Foundations program and our year-long program to help really transform and create those routines for the results that you desire. Changing your shoulds, your coulds, and woulds into did.
That's fantastic. And because this is going to be on the internet forever, people can also get in contact with you on the social media as well. Is it the same sort of Uncommon Diabetic sort of label that they could type into the internet?
Thanks for asking, because I would have totally forgot. I get so excited sometimes. Is that Uncommon Diabetic is a YouTube channel, so check out the Uncommon Diabetic channel. We have UDTV Live. Just last week, Dawn was on, and we had an amazing talk about how living and impacted by diabetes. And we have Facebook under Uncommon Diabetic as well, and Instagram under Uncommon Diabetic. Reach out. I'd love nothing more than the opportunity of meeting you, talking with you, and just seeing if there's a good fit with helping you transform your life from common to an uncommon life, your ideal form of life.
And I would like to personally recommend this because Heath's had a fantastic impact on my life and the life of my son Noah, and with his mentoring and his support. And I think that, for anyone that is impacted by a long-term condition, and we all know somebody, support somebody, or have that in our life, the things that Keith offers help with all of that around mindset and how you live your life, how you rest and take things in, and how you learn, also being part of a community. So it's all useful. The YouTube and the Facebook, they're free things that are on offer, so I'll check them out and they'll be in the show notes. So Heath, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you here. We could talk all day, and we have talked, but previously for a long time we've been on each other's shows, and that's been fabulous. And so thank you very much for everything that you shared with us and all your wisdom. Is there one last sort of parting nugget that you'd like to share with the audience before we close the show?
I think we were talking beforehand. One book that I would really recommend is The One Thing. And it really is summed up in this. Today, what's the one thing that you can do that by doing it is going to make everything else easier or even unnecessary, right? Put the big rocks in first. And health is the crown that only the sick can see. So make sure you take care of you. That's the really important thing.
That's absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much, Heath. And that's it for the Dawn Jarvis show today. If you like what you've heard, we have a guest like this every week, and we're here on YouTube and on wherever you listen to podcasts as well. Like, share and subscribe, and we will talk to you soon. Take care, everybody, and bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to The Dawn Jarvis Show. If you enjoyed this episode, there are 2 things you can do. Number 1, leave Dawn a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. It would mean so much to her if you took a moment out of your time to post your thoughts on the show. It will help Dawn reach so many more people and help them with their well-being. Number 2, subscribe to Dawn's email list, the Diverse Nurse Digest, using the link in the show notes. Until the next time, thank you and goodbye.